So the book I'm writing now, it's finding off-market properties. So it goes over I think it's close to 20 strategies of how to find off-market properties in today's market. And I use ChatGPT for almost all of it. And for me, it's because you can just put in ChatGPT with the right prompts, write me a book about X, Y, and Z, and it can shoot out some information, but it's not going to be great. I'm using ChatGPT basically as a ghostwriter, where if I gave the ghostwriter just like, hey, I need to write a book about finding out market deals, like, go, here's some money and write it. It's not going to be very good quality if I did the same thing to a ghostwriter. But if I'm going to the ghostwriter, so this chapter 1, I want to have this type of tone. I have these 5 pages of notes. We need to get in there and just make it fluid and smooth. And I want it to have a comical tone. So that's basically, so the same way you would work with and operate with the ghostwriter, I'm just using ChatGPT as my ghostwriter to put my scatterbrained thoughts into a focused, readable book, and it's been dramatically helpful, and we'll do it chapter by chapter, and there's lots of revisions. Like if I just wrote it out, it'd probably be faster, to be honest, but I feel like it's better quality the way I'm doing it, as opposed to just writing out my own self. So it's been phenomenally helpful. I think it's helping me get focused and to really in the art. So I'm excited to get this thing going and try to help more people, which is awesome.
Everyone, welcome back to Living the Next Chapter. I have someone who's been on my screen now. This is the 3rd time, and it's not because we're making mistakes well, sometimes we make mistakes, but it's not because we had to do this 3 times over. It's because this gentleman has been on now 3 of my different podcasts. So there's that. Jared is back now here on Living the Next Chapter to talk about his writing journey. We're going to talk about AI in writing, which is amazing. And lots of good stuff is happening in Jared's life and lots of things to share. Jared, welcome to Living the Next Chapter. I got to remember which podcast. Welcome to Nice to have you here.
Well, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. And like I said earlier, I'm honored to be here and hopefully giving some value to your audience. So it's a lot of fun. It's a privilege.
Amazing. So behind the scenes for people listening, we've done 3 podcasts in a row over 3 different days. And I guess my problem is I have to remember which podcast I'm on, Jared. So I might stumble, but we'll try not to. Living the Next Chapter. Podcast is all about authors and their writing process and their journey, and then talking about what they've written and maybe their process. And you have something quite unique. And I want to start here is your use of AI in the book that you're working on right now.
Yep.
We're going to get into this for sure, but I want you to reshare with everyone listening the story of your teacher back in grade school and the wonderful advice that you were given back then, which has not come true. But what were you told when you were younger that just stuck with you?
So when I was around 8 years old, so that's maybe 2nd grade or something like right around there. I was dubbed, I had learning disability, I had dyslexia. They said I had dyslexia. And I was very active, as you can probably tell. I have tons of energy, and I still have tons of energy in my 40s.
Yeah. And
so it's just I just bounce around a lot, and including I have ADHD as well. And so my teacher in frustration, she looked at me and she wagged her finger and says, "I hope you like flipping burgers, because that's all you're going to do the rest of your life." And I was 8. And so an adult told me something like that. And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, that definitely, that was like I bet I hit in the stomach at the very least. And I think stuff like that and just being in the system of, I don't think the special ed system, at least in the US, is very helpful to kids, to be perfectly honest. Not to go down this route, but
yeah.
It doesn't really help you go ahead. I don't think it gives kids a skateboard to kind of, I have special needs. I learn differently. So they're okay with just getting D's and F's. And the teachers are okay with giving them, that's a whole nother thing, a whole other subject. But that was like, it was very like impactful as a young child. And I think that not just that, but a lot of other things like that made me feel like I couldn't do anything more. So that's why I as soon as I started providing for my family, I just got a job at Walmart. And that's all I thought I deserved or I could do.
Wow.
And so, it was impactful. And it took a lot of years for me to realize that I'm actually pretty smart. When I went back to college, I was like, this is not as hard as I thought it was going to be. And I was getting 4.0s, and I was like, okay, maybe I'm not so dumb, and just having success in Walmart, being promoted.
Yeah.
And I was working as a cashier part-time, and I got promoted to front end manager in 2.5 months in. And so there's not a lot of competition there. I'm not gonna lie. I love the people at Walmart. So if you're listening, look where I'm not dogging after 12 years. But then I was promoted and then But so that was a big, hit. But it's like I said before, I guarantee, even if she's working I make more than she does in a month I make more than what in a month than she would make a whole year. So that's kind of revenge is the best. Success is the best revenge.
I love that.
For sure.
It's great. So can you talk a little bit, Jared, what is, when you're writing, how does dyslexia kind of sideline you, or what kind of barriers are there in front of you when you sit down to write? Can you kind of explain that for somebody who doesn't have dyslexia? Kind of what happens for you?
Nowadays with all technology, dyslexia doesn't really affect me too much.
Okay.
I can read fine and everything. It's just, I can't, if you ask me to write just on script, if you're reading my handwritten notes, which I'm showing, which I'm holding up, there's not every word is, almost every word's misspelled some way or another. I joke in my social media because I'm very active in social media. I make a lot of, and I'm very humorous. And I put on there, you always know if I've been hacked if you see a post from me that's spelled correctly and there's no grammar errors. I've been hacked. That's the key.
Okay.
So for me, it was not so much what the biggest challenge, honestly, was my ADD. So that was the hardest cut because I have shiny light syndrome, and in a lot of ways it's kind of my superpower. But I'm like trying to on a train of thought, and then something comes in, so I have to kind of like focus in on it and hone in on that one thought to keep it going, so the reader can make sense of what I'm writing.
Okay.
Which AI has been a huge help on this new book on that specifically. But so the book that I wrote, it was a collaboration book, so I only wrote one chapter.
Okay.
Which is a really good, because I don't know if I would have continued to write if it was like such a big task. I've always wanted to write a book for years and years, but then when one of my mentors was like, we're doing a collaboration book, I really want you have such a good message. Let's get you in a chapter in this. And so sitting down, and it probably took me longer than most writers to write that one chapter, but I got it in, and I didn't use AI for that chapter at all. This is kind of just before AI kind of exploded.
Yeah.
But then it gave me the confidence, like, oh, I can do this. Yeah. So it was really cool. But I think just focusing and honing in is probably my biggest challenge as far as the challenges that I personally face.
Okay. So let's talk about Unstuck. Let's talk a little bit more about it, and specifically your chapter. What's the big idea for the book, first of all? And then can you kind of talk about what you wrote?
Absolutely. So the book is honestly, it's Unstuck. It's 17 strategies to put your network marketing business into momentum. So it is targeted for network marketers, right? And my chapter is on time management.
Okay.
So when I started my real estate career, so I tied it all into my real estate stuff. My real estate career, I was going to school full time. I was we talked about it in our other podcast too, going to school full time, and I was working full time, but almost over full time, like 60 hours on my day job, and then 16 credit hours at my school. Wow. And so again, the high energy serves me well in many capacities.
Yeah.
And and then I started my business with just 15 to 30 minutes a day, and how to structure that and how to make it sacred time. I called my chapter Sacred Time. And we went to pretty good details on that last podcast, which everyone should listen to, on how I chopped up the day, how I made that 30 minutes sacred to me, and made sure no one else stepped on it, which is the biggest thing.
Yeah. Okay. So let's jump over to your writing now with AI.
Yeah.
What specific tools are you using in AI to help you? And kind of let's talk about that.
So the book I'm writing now, it's finding off-market properties. Okay. So it goes over, I think it's close to 20 strategies of how to find off-market properties in today's market. And I use ChatGPT for almost all of it.
Good.
And for me, it's because you can just put in ChatGPT with the right prompts, write me a book about X, Y, and Z, and it can shoot out some information, but it's not going to be great. I'm using ChatGPT basically as a ghostwriter, where if I gave the ghostwriter just like, hey, I need to write a book about finding out market deals, like, go, here's some money, write it. It's not going to be very good quality if I did the same thing to a ghostwriter. But if I'm going to the ghostwriter, so this chapter 1, I want to have this type of tone. I have these 5 pages of notes. We need to get in there and just make it fluid and smooth. And I want it to have a comical tone. So that's basically, so the same way you would work with and operate with the ghostwriter, I'm just using ChatGPT as my ghostwriter to put my scatterbrained thoughts into a focused, readable book, and it's been dramatically helpful, and we'll do it chapter by chapter, and there's lots of revisions. Like if I just wrote it out, it'd probably be faster, to be honest, but I feel like it's better quality the way I'm doing it, as opposed to just writing out my own self. So it's been phenomenally helpful. I can't tell you like the speed too, as far as like taking longer, but let me back up. I think it's helping me get focused and to really kind of get this thing going, because we're almost done. So I'm going to get some people to make sure the grammar's right and everything like that, and nice. And the art. So I'm excited to get this thing going and try to help more people, which is awesome. So
you mentioned earlier that if somebody hacked your Instagram account, it'd be noticeable.
It would.
How do you leverage AI but still keep the Jared part to be you in that? How do you balance that?
Absolutely. That's a good question, right? And I think you just have to make sure that the notes that you're giving the AI has to be more of you, and they're just putting the A and B's together.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, like I said, each chapter that I'm writing, and these aren't like massively huge chapters, and so I'm putting in, 4 or 5, sometimes 6 pages of notes into AI system to really write it. So the strategies I've said as I'm reading it, and I'll even put it down, like I would never use words like X, Y, and Z, or I would have to kind of jump back in there after I'm reading it and saying like, I don't like the tone of this, of how you're writing it, so I need you to change it. So it's literally the same way as you would with a ghostwriter. Is just having that conversation with them and then kind of feeling you. AI is the same thing. AI can remember too, because you're doing it in one chatbot, right? Yeah. So AI can remember like your previous instructions. You can do it from, this is the type of tone I want. This is how I want to do it. You can have it learn from you too. So, for example, I can even upload my chapter I did write from Unstuck, and I say, I want you to learn from this text, which I'm about to give you, and I want you to write it in the same tone, the same style as this following text, and then boom, upload that chapter. Now it knows my vocabulary, how I write, my cheesy jokes in there. It just gets it all.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I do want to point out, because your audience are mostly writers or soon to be writers. I don't think AI is going to replace ghostwriters. So I don't think, at least right now, I don't think it's going to replace ghostwriters. I know I'm using it as a ghostwriter. It's just a tool. And I think a ghostwriter, an experienced ghostwriter, could actually use AI 10 times better than how I'm doing it.
True. Yeah. Because they
So
have the skill set for that. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. So they know exactly what they need to get from someone to make the story cohesive and it goes through. So they can just get that same information and even plug it into as they're doing their own ghostwriting, plug it in there and have AI help them create a better book for their clients. A lot of people are kind of intimidated or scared of AI or because there's a lot of unknowns.
Right.
And for me, this is how I feel about AI because I was on a radio show last week and he was the author. He by profession he was a ghostwriter, so he was a little bit like we were definitely on the opposite side of things.
Yeah.
As far as AI goes, because he was like, well, isn't it kind of he even said like, is that even moral to publish a book that was written by AI? It's like, well, AI helped me write it, but it's still my book. If a carpenter came to my house and he built a beautiful shelf, he bought the lumber, he cut it, he got the hammer put in there. No one's going to look at that shelf and say that hammer did a great job.
Yeah, those nails are awesome.
Yeah, those nails, they're really holding it in. That is phenomenal. Right. No one ever in the right mind would say that.
Yeah, you're right.
It's the same thing with AI.
It's a tool.
It's a tool.
Yeah.
And the what you prompt in it, if you put in, garbage out. So the prompts are key. And people that may have heard the term of prompt engineer, and that is very true. The people are getting hired as prompt engineers to certain companies where their job is, and just like as any industry changes or anything changes in industry, like people always worry about people losing jobs and they're not gonna be able to do this. Sure, a technology may remove a job, but it also replaces with 2 other jobs.
Yeah.
Just different types. You know, so I'm not worried about AI. I've been using AI in my business for the past like 4 months, really. And like I swear to you, like when I'm doing my work, if I'm not out actually looking at a property, every 15 minutes I'm using AI for something. So nice. It is just, I'm an AI junkie. Let's put it that way.
So I actually, back in the day, I Googled myself, which sounds really odd to say that. It feels wrong to say that I Googled myself. Then I actually chat GPT'd myself.
Oh.
Which was interesting. It came back saying that I knew who my wife's name is Jennifer. Your wife's name is Jennifer. It said that we lived in a different part of Canada where we don't live. It said that we loved this and this and this, and named off a bunch of stuff. It said that we have a herb garden. We're famous for our herb garden, and I don't have a herb garden. So I responded back and I gave it all the corrections, and it was like, oh, our apologies. We'll update all that. But it knew who I was, which was kind of freaky, to be honest. But the one thing, whenever I hear people talk about ChatGPT, I hear it in the podcasting realm. And yes, you can use it to find out the ABCs, the 1, 2, 3 steps.
Yeah,
that's great. It sparks you to think about things you haven't thought about, you might have missed. That'll make your content better. But the one thing that ChatGPT can't do is tell a personal story that you've lived and learned.
100%.
And that's the part that no one can duplicate.
Right.
So in our writings, in our podcasts, whatever, that element of us that can't be duplicated by anyone else in the world, because we see the world in a certain way, right? And no one else sees it the way we do. ChatGPT doesn't know what it feels like to be told that you'll never amount to anything at 8 years of age. It doesn't know what that feels like, right? So you can bring that to your writing in addition to using AI and bring a little bit of Jared into the picture and season it with your expertise and your lived knowledge. And I think that's a great combo when you put those two together, right?
Right. Because I don't think I would I don't know this book would have happened that I'm currently writing. And this may not go anywhere. It's made to sit on, like, maybe I could be me and my mom, maybe the only people to buy a copy, and that's fine. But it's a good, I don't think this book would even happened if I didn't get involved in AI. I think maybe down the road, and 2 years on the road, maybe I would get a ghostwriter to kind of help me put my thoughts together. But it just it opens up more possibilities for everyone without having to spend. I mean, because if you're a good ghostwriter, I mean, I looked at ghostwriters and look at 10 grand for anyone that's kind of worth their salt, really, if not more.
Yeah.
And so it brings things more into, for the average Joe, to like, okay, I'm not a writer. I didn't go to writing school. I really haven't had a ton of experience in it, but I want to dive into this. I want to tell my story. I just don't have the skill set at this time to really put things together smoothly so things make sense so the reader would want to read it, right? So I think AI is a phenomenal tool for anyone that's hesitant on writing a book. Is a great tool to start out and to just fill things out. You can have AI write up, like, even an outline, like, hey, I want you to, you're good, give it a title or give it a role. You are a master author. I want you to help me write out my outline for my book. It's going to have and ask me 20 questions about my book so you can help me the most. And it'll just go through, ask those questions. Exactly. You answer it. So it's the same way you have the AI interview you to fill in the blanks. And I can't. So I've written business plans using AI. I've made a makeshift chatbot with AI. In fact, I actually had someone join my coaching program because I help people get into entrepreneurship and to real estate investing. And so AI wrote a post for me, a social media post. Someone responded to it, and so I had my bot reach out to him. They had the conversation, and during the conversation, the AI found out his hopes, his dreams, what he wanted to accomplish, and AI was like, oh well, AI was talking as if it was me, and it was like, oh, well, I think we can help you achieve those dreams if we did X, Y, and Z, because I already gave AI everything, and then set up an appointment. So the first time I actually talked to this person was our first meeting. And it was just like, we already knew each other. I obviously read what was going on in his stuff. So I knew kind of his goals. And then we were able to give him a specific plan. Yeah. But it's just amazing, like, how helpful AI can be if you're using it correctly. It's really cool. I get the nerd in me, like, explodes when I play with it. It's fun.
So do your kids think of you now as the cool dad with all your AI tools and everything?
I don't know if I'm ever a cool dad. But as far as like kids go, I encourage my kids to use AI as much as possible, even on their homework assignments. I encourage them to use it. Really? I know that's a big, like, no. But here's, and this is why. Back in the 90s, you and I are both old enough to remember the 90s and the whole, like, the pros and cons of the internet. The internet's going to take over. Oh, it's just a fad. My dad, he told me it was a fad. Don't even, like, just it. And internet's not a fad. It's part of everyday world. If we don't have internet, people would lose their freaking minds right now.
So I should sell my encyclopedias, is what you're telling me?
Exactly. Yes, you should.
Oh, dang it!
Yeah. Well, they're great.
So many. Yeah,
they're great door stoppers if you want.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right.
You keep a good table from wobbling, but and AI is, in my humble opinion, I think it's right there. I think it's. I want my kids to use AI as much as humanly possible, because when everyday life, it's going to be involved in some way or another. So if they're from the get-go understand it, how to operate it, how to get the best use of this tool, now when they grow up, they're going to have more options, more opportunities. They're going to understand things a lot quicker than you or I will, because they're from a young age, they already just know it, right? So I mean, I remember the world before internet, and it's a whole nother world, and it's going to be this. We're going to say the same thing now in 20 years, where I remember the world before AI, and now the world's wholly different, and there's no going back. Like, that's a Pandora's box that's been opened. So
And the fact that AI is a tool, by
Yeah.
using it and understanding it, understanding how to use it properly, how to use it for good and not for evil,
Right.
that's a skill set. And that skill
100%.
set can translate to other things outside of AI, because now
Hmm.
you're actively learning and
Exactly.
implementing new tools and not afraid of change, not afraid of new things. There's a lot of ways that teaching your kids to embrace AI and demonstrating it as a parent
Yeah.
and can equip you for a lot of new things in your life as well. So there's some advantages there, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Just embrace the new, that because the one thing that doesn't change is that change always happens,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? It's just always.
And if you can't write a book for whatever reason, time, money, um, I know I have one friend who is a ghostwriter, and he wrote a book on behalf of an author. And that author was a very respected business person, highly sought after, does great speeches, travels the world, but he writes at like a grade 8, grade 9 level, and he's in his 60s. He can't write a book, but he
Right.
wanted a book written. So if it wasn't for that ghostwriter, his story would never be in the world.
Right.
So who else now is strapped to the point where they can't get their message into the world because of some reason? And if AI can be one of the answers to solve that,
Hmm.
who's to say that that's a bad thing then? Right? Because your
That's
message is going to
exactly
get
right.
into the world.
You're 100% right, and I couldn't say it. I couldn't have said it better.
Yeah.
Right? There's so many people that don't have the resources to pay a decent ghostwriter 10, 20, 30 grand for them to write their book.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many people that have amazing stories because I've talked to them. I'm sure just being a podcast host, you've talked to
Yeah.
plenty of people, and podcasts are another great way to get their stories out, but sometimes they don't have the knowledge or the resources to kind of get on podcasts. Like they don't like, I don't know how to tell people or even start or whatever. Right. So it just opens up the possibilities for all of these people to share the story and us as the audience. Now we have the option to hear those stories, which we would have heard before.
Yeah.
So even on the flip side, like there's so many stories which, and if I look at my life, I can't tell you like hearing about someone's struggle and like there's something that hits home with me, right? Oh,
Yeah.
they're even worse off than I had, and they did so much more. And it gives you inspiration. It gives you, there's, oh, they did this, so I can do that too, and whatever it may be. So AI not only has allowed me to tell a little bit more of my story, what I can, help other people, and it allows me as the audience member to really able to get more information in and to hear these really amazing stories, which I would never have been able to hear before.
Amazing. Love it. Great. Really, really good. Can you give us a little bit of a sneak peek into some of the content of this book? Is there any secrets you can share with us before we buy the book?
Sure. Right. So this and you have to understand and I may change the titles and
Yeah.
everything because it's a little bit controversial. So this is what I did. I love to laugh. If I'm not giggling at something, I don't want to do it. Right.
Okay.
If you watch my TikToks, they're all about real estate, but they're all humorous. Like I'll do like it's I really like to have fun. So this is the title of this is the current working title, and I'll probably change it. But the title is the creative and slightly unethical ways to finding off-market real estate deals. All of the ways are ethical. I just want to point that out.
Yeah.
But the way that I have the titles and everything else. So just an example. One of the chapters is Craigslist connections, finding deals in digital age, hacking your way to off-market deals. Um, Another chapter we have like stalking your way to success, social media strategies to finding off-market deals. So I do the art of bribery is another chapter that I do. So it's obviously not bribing people, it's not stalking people,
Yeah.
but it's just different. It's fun ways to get intrigue and for people to read. So it's all about finding challenges is what the old book is. It's finding people that need help and then buying their properties is a great way to help them. So I go into um I I love to be the only person that knows that house is for sale.
Right.
Because right now joking aside, but in reality, as far as business wise, right, 90% of the deals that I do are off market, and I'm the only one that knows that's for sale because I know where to look. My mentor, he taught me, he says, the deal of the decade, because you hear people that are in that they're real estate investors like, oh, I made $100,000 on this deal. It was amazing. Or like, this is phenomenal. It's gonna give me rent. It's gonna already have a ton of equity, whatever the deal is, the deal of the decade. He says it can happen once a week if you know where to look. So, I've taken that to heart, and it's been a kind of a key to my success, and it's in this book. And so it's all about finding people with challenges, people going through foreclosure, bankruptcy, divorce, distressed properties. There's so many different ways, and offer a solution which they didn't know existed. That's the biggest thing. So I've had plenty of people with their house where it was like a hoarder house, and maybe they inherited it, maybe they live in it, and they needed to get rid of it for whatever reason. Maybe it's foreclosure, maybe they had to move for whatever the reason. And a lot of realtors will not touch those distressed properties because no financing will touch it. So it's not going to be FHA approved, at least here in the US, right? It's not going to be, approved by the standard conventional loans. A lot of agents won't even list it. So then I can come in and offer a solution. Foreclosures. I've had conversations with people with foreclosures where the spouse didn't know that they were going through foreclosure.
Wow.
And it's tough situations. So you're dealing with people that are in the darkest time of their lives, a lot of times, and coming in with a solution is a great way to help them. But in order for you to help them, you have to have their guards down, right? So how do you not pitch, but how do you start the conversation without them being guards up, because they've been getting letters and phone calls from other investors, and so they have the whole world. They're getting all the collection calls coming in. They're getting maybe they lost a job because of COVID or whatever reason, and collection calls come in. They have other investors trying to buy their property at like 2 cents at the dollar, and so they feel like a failure as a provider, as a person, and so it is tons of emotions. And when I come in, it's the same scenario. Like I believe in being a servant first, then money comes. So I've sat down people, and it's like, this is 7 different ways where I can help you get out of this situation. Only one of them is me buying them. But have you tried this government program that helps people in your situation? Have you tried this, and this? I've sat down with people, and I never bought the property, but we were able to figure out a way to save their house.
Wow.
I'll take that deal 100 times, because again, it's just, in that situation, man, it's not a good place to be, emotionally. It's just terrible. So if I can help them in any way I can, awesome. If that means that I'm buying the property, and then we stop the foreclosure, so it's not on their record. They walk away with cash, because before they would have just lost everything. So they have money in hand. They can leave any trash they need. They don't have to do any repairs, and they have money and only a couple late payments on their credit report, so they can start over again if they needed to.
Right. So
I've had sellers in tears at the closing table, just grateful for what I've been helping them do. But on the other hand, I've had people throw me out of their house too. So there's good and bad with everything. But that's in a nutshell. Joking aside, and I may take out those jokes in just for, I don't know. I'll figure that out eventually. But I like to be humorous. But that's what the book's about. It's just finding the people that need your help. Your listeners, if you thought about getting real estate, they need someone in your neighborhood needs your help right now. Right. The only way that you're stopping you from doing it is the knowledge on how to find them and how to close the deal. So that's what I do is help people gain that knowledge so they can help those other people, not through just my books, but through coaching and educational programs. And if anyone wants to get a hold of me, it's just I'm gonna get a website eventually, but it's linktree.com/askjared, ASKJARED. And you can get a hold of me, book a 9-minute phone call, and because see if we can work with each other. Maybe we're not, but or even if you're looking at getting to I want to be a business owner. I don't want to do real estate, but I want to start doing business. I've done multiple businesses, so we probably can help you out too as well. But that's the cool thing. So there's so many opportunities out there, and knowledge is only barrier to entry. Because if you have the knowledge, you can find the money to buy the property.
Right.
If you have the knowledge, you can find the property. If you could know how to run the numbers, you can actually turn a profit and helping people along the way.
Nice.
And that's what I really, really love.
Do you have a timeline in mind for the release of the book?
I ideally within the next, I want to do it before my 41st birthday, which is October 22nd.
Okay.
So that's my goal. And I think as far as like, it's mostly done now. I just need to get, I'm actually going to hire a kind of a ghostwriter to look over it and see if they can, spruce, make it better, if anything.
Mm-hmm.
And the editing, things like that. And also getting the hiring an artist to do the book cover, a graphic designist, whatever you call them. Yeah. So yeah, my goal is in the next, so as we're recording, we're in July. So the next 3 months or so, that's my goal. I wanted to be out. So we'll definitely cross some fingers.
That's good. Well, definitely we're going to we'll be able to update the show notes with all the information, because I want to be able to provide a link right from the show notes for people to buy it right from their phone. So we'll do that in the future as well, and update our information beyond your linked link tree as well. So to Jared, tell me, just for the people listening, who is this book perfect for? If you could meet your ideal reader that you had in mind when you pull this all together, if you were to walk into a cafe or a restaurant and they're sitting at a table, could you kind of describe to me what that person, who they are and what their situation is? Who would this book benefit the best?
This book would be great for people that know nothing about real estate and they want to get into it. It's a great start. It's also really good for existing investors as well, because a lot of these investors, they'll just buy from wholesalers or just ask the realtor to go find them a deal. And even if they are good at finding off-market deals, I guarantee there are so many strategies in there that I don't know any investor, not to be grandioso by any means, I don't know anyone that tries to find deals this exact way as how I'm doing it. So, and that's a big claim. I get that. I mean, but there are a few strategies where, I mean, a lot of them, they're out there, right? There's a lot of few strategies where you have no idea. This is Jerified, if you want. Lack of a better way to put it. So I think it's great for anyone that's hungry, that wants to start. Like, I don't know what to do. Let me start here. This is a great place to start.
Okay.
It's going to give you tips and strategies on even like what to say to sellers, how to start the whole process, and then goes into, for those experienced investors, we're like, okay, I want to be, instead of like fighting over this one deal where I have 300 other investors trying to find it and I'm trying to overbid. I've had plenty of people where I know investors where they overpaid on properties because they really wanted it, and the emotions got involved, and like 20 other people trying to bid for it, and then they way overpaid and don't make as much or even lose money on the deal because they were one of 300 as opposed to the one and only that knows it's for sale. So yes, it's for the whole spectrum right there. So just looking to, maybe even if you're not interested in real estate or you want to see if it's right for you, this is a great way. Like, am I prepared to do these type of things to find those deals? And like, so it'd be a good, even like dipping your toes in the water to see if they're like, is this way a good way for me to go? Or maybe should I do drop shipping or something? Right. Yeah. This is a good way to start that too. So it kind of covers.
You're a great living example that it works.
Yeah.
To go from 60, 70 hours a week to now being around with your family and having money in the bank and some freedom. That's you're living it. So it goes beyond words. Yeah. On a piece of paper. It's actually being lived out. So that gives you credibility right there, which is great. And the fact that we can also then work with you and have time with you in your calendar, in addition to having your words in a book form, that's another bonus for sure for people to reach out and to spend time with you. So there's so many things that could help people just from your approach to Jared. And again, I love your thoughts around that. Sometimes you just help people and then you leave the house and nothing really happened, no transaction happened, but you help somebody. So that helps as well to kind of understand your heart and your desire to help people. So I love that. That really stands out.
Well, I'm a big believer in karma, the universe, whatever you put out comes back in. And so when I really grasp that, that's what really, it's like I help people, but honestly, there's some, like, I want to help you, not because you're going to do something for me, but I know something else is going to give me something back.
Yeah.
So it's like, sure, I want to help the people because honestly, there's the emotion there. Like I want, like, let's help. Let me pick you up. But, and to be honest, like I'm also doing it because I know something good's going to happen back.
Right.
You know, I mean, that's not the only reason, but to be honest, like that's kind of the thing too. Like I love helping people. I love doing that, and maybe it's not going to be from you, but something else is going to happen good for me. I just know it, and that's my coded life, just in general.
It's a great inspirational story for everyone to follow along, and to if you're that person that's working so hard, feeling like you're not moving forward, you're kind of slipping backwards, if anything, in your career, you're just not satisfied. There's something better. There is something better. So Jared is the one that can help you with that. And I would advise you to reach out and speak to Jared, buy the book as it becomes available, grab Unstuck and get a preview of what Jared's up to. But it's great having you on the podcast, Jared. Again, third time now to have a conversation with you. That's a lot of Dave, I gotta say. So
I'm loving every minute of it. It's great.
I really appreciate you making time. It's amazing. Everyone go check out Jared's information, all the information in the show notes. Jared, thank you so much for being part of the podcast.
My pleasure, man. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being part of the podcast again. Appreciate you investing time in the show and you for listening this far. Thank you. One thing to keep in mind is we are looking for help and some support for the podcast. If you are able to help support our show, our little podcast show here, we can go over to livingthenextchapter.com and all the instructions will be there to help support the show. It takes about $30 to $40 a month to do this, just for the hosting and all of that other stuff that we pay for. But if the show is giving you any value and you're enjoying what's happening here, would love any kind of support that you can offer. That would be great. And you being here and sharing the show helps us grow, helps us get great new authors on the show, connect with other listeners, and build community. So whatever you can do to share this show today, I really appreciate it. Thank you for being here for Living the Next Chapter, and I can't wait to share the next one with you. Talk soon. Have a great day.
Mindshift Power Podcast, the podcast for teenagers and those who work with them. There's a huge problem in America today. There's a very large disconnect between teenagers and the adults who work with them. I'm looking to bridge that gap with real, raw, honest conversation, not held back by the chains of political correctness. You cannot solve a problem you do not understand. Want to understand teenagers today? Listen to this podcast. This podcast is for teens in the U.S. and Canada. To learn more, go to fatimabay.com/podcast or just look for Mindshift Power Podcast on any listening platform. I look forward to you being a faithful listener.